John here, Hot Rods in the Woods once again, back to you with another installment of gee, how can people do things so wrong yet come out so nice? I'm going to introduce you to a couple new tricks that when you're inspecting a vehicle like this that you know nothing about, but you want to start marking things that you know need addressed, I'm going to show you a few things that you can do so you don't forget any. So stand by for this video. This is rather important. It's safety issues. It's how not to forget things as you go along. And hopefully you'll learn something along the way. I'll be back. Okay, so a couple things that I've found, which can be rather scary, are a few things like this. I'm sure you can see that nut is just barely on there. And there's a gap at the rear spring. I'm holding my magic light here at the same time. There's no cotter pin. Same thing on this side. That's not all the way in. It's actually very far out. You can see the gap. No cotter pin. A few wires just dangling down. Back here we've got, I don't know, some crooked looking bolts and washers, so we'll deal with that. Just a few things that make you go, Obviously we have the exhaust that's aiming right toward the spring and all. Wiring up here. Wires with alligator clips. You know, just stuff kind of hanging around. Now, I understand that this car is not complete, and it wasn't when we purchased it, so this doesn't bother me. This is like put together and just the lipstick and rouging hasn't been done, but like these bolts hanging down, I'd like to cut all those off and trim them. There's a bunch of stuff, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you go through this stuff and you remember that it needs to be dealt with. So hang on and I'll grab the magic stuff and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back with magic tricks from John. You might recognize this. I don't know if you do or not. It's caution tape. You can get it in red and yellow. This just says danger and however you say it in Spanish. Peligro? I don't know. Anyway, get yourself a pair of scissors. Cut yourself a piece. Tie it in a knot. If you ever spend any time around an airport or you watched any videos online about airports, you'll see that, well, especially in the military, they have red tags hanging off of all the things that need to be removed before a fighter jet takes off into the air. So we just put a little bit of this around. Tie a knot, tie a lot. And in doing so, you can see that if it moves at all, I know that there's an issue. Now this stuff is really inexpensive. I don't remember what I paid for it, but it was cheap. And you can't go wrong. It just lets you know that there's issues that need to be dealt with. Now, of course, I've already said we need to put looming in to loom up these wires. There's other things that need to be addressed. We've got a 3/8 fuel line going into a 1/4 inch fuel pump, which I've already seen causes it to stumble a little bit. So we're just going to cover this thing up underneath with some red tape. I think it's just a great way for those of us that are getting older to not be quite as forgetful as we are, and we know it. I'm not going to do the exhaust one, obvious. Well, yes I am. Because if I don't, I may forget. If there's a fuel leak, well, we really don't want to know that, do we? There you go. So I'll continue on and do all of those. But I know there's something out there that you guys need. And every person that listens to this should get some. These are the best scissors by far that I've ever found. I think I bought these at Bass Pro Shop. And they were camouflaged. My wife used them in the kitchen for so long, cutting chicken and you name it, everything, that the handles were worn. Well, I kind of wanted to get a pair for out here in the shop, so I found her a new pair and bought them for the kitchen. These are Camillus, C-A-M-I-L-U-S. It's kind of hard. C-A-M-I-L-I-U-S. Scissors. Look them up. They're cheap, but they'll cut anything. We have used them to cut material. We've used them to cut plastic. I've used them to cut cardboard. There's no excuse for these being so good, so inexpensive, and cut so much stuff. They've got serrations on the one side. They come apart for easy cleaning. They're tough. I guarantee you we've had this pair for 7 years, at least, and they still cut fine. So, this is not a sponsored ad or anything. You can tell that I'm not BSing. I've had these things for a long time, but they sure do cut well. Just something to add to your toolbox, add to your kitchen supplies. It ain't a bad idea. I'm going to go ahead and put you on time lapse for a bit, and I'm going to run around this thing and throw flags up. So, enjoy the show. Okay, so it might look like a lot. You can see them all over, but it's all pretty simple stuff. But how do you remember all of this? So I'm going to start at the back and just show you what I found. Now, I have nothing bad to say about the builder of this car, and the reason I do not is he was aiming absolutely in the right direction. I just noticed another one. So I'll come back to it in a minute if I remember, but let's just go through what I found. So up here, I found butt connectors and wires that are exposed to the weather. No good. We'll take all that back out. We will solder and shrink wrap those. Up here, up in the hole, I don't know if you can see that. Let me get it. You can just barely see a Scotch lock up there. That's to add a wire to a single wire, and it has no sealant or anything. If you ever worked on a boat trailer or anything, you know that those are the problems most of the time with trailer lights and trailer light connectors in your truck or car. So I tagged that. Of course, we have the shock mount that is falling out or just loose. We have wires up here that are just hanging we've got to fix. Of course, I did flag the exhaust. Same thing on this side with the loose bolt. We have the fuel pump up here, which has steel liner flex hose, 2 different style clamps. They missed the bracket right there. And it's got, once again, a butt connector with power to it that you can see the wire out the end. So we're going to fix all of that, change that around. Going a little farther forward, we know we have this little transmission leak at the speed sensor. Here we have, well, if you can tell me what that is. That's an alligator clip with butt connected with, well, you can see it. Now that's the brake light switch. So that needs to be addressed. Sorry, I had to sneeze. So we have more butt connectors. I'll have to flag that. I didn't even bother flagging over here because all of this wiring is going to be changed. We know we've got a transmission leak. I better put a new pan on that and all. Going up here, this is a bracket, which is kind of interesting. It holds a Heim joint. Can you see it? Here, from here probably is best. It holds a Heim joint for the steering shaft. It's held down by a self-tapping screw. That just needs to be moved a little bit and welded into place. So that's easy, but once again, needs to be addressed. Up here, we have a ground strap that isn't hooked up. So we need to address that. Over here, we have a 10-inch piece of black regular fuel line attached to the steel tubing, and then it goes to a butt connector of sorts up to a fake stainless braided line that goes up, lays right against the header and goes up to the engine. And then in the very front, we have a Mickey Mouse piece of flat bar that apparently was supposed to hold the parking lights or something. It's got a couple trailer clearance lights on it, and we're going to remove that. Probably either put a, I don't know, I have a front bumper off the 28 that we probably aren't going to use, but it's black. I don't think it'd do this car justice. So I may just put a piece of chrome tubing in between the two ends of the frame horns there. And I have really small lights that are, oh, the size of a quarter maybe, or a dime. I'll show you. I think I put a set in the front of this. Yeah, see those little ones there? I can probably use a couple of those for either the parks or, yeah, they need to be the parks. Now I did these in mine because you can't find the factory lenses, and it works fine. Face it, I don't drive it that much at night. But we'll do something a little prettier up here for that. I can figure out a place to mount them which will be better. So we'll figure that out. So this is just a preliminary walkthrough. I mean, obviously there's going to be a few more things. He has it has a brand new labeled wiring harness in it that I can work with. So just like when I did the wiring in Neighbor's Complaint, the harness is labeled. I can run it. I can loom it. It's all simple stuff. But as you see, there are things that need to be addressed. Now, as I was walking back here a minute ago, I noticed this. Jeez, now I got to grab the flashlight again. I'm so unprepared. We'll turn it on again. Walk back here. And check this bracket out. You can see that that bolt is either A, a little bit too long, B, put in the wrong way, and no matter what, it sure do appear loose. Now that's going to bang up and down. Remembering in a Corvette rear suspension, the center section, the chunk, is stable. It doesn't move. So this is actually acting like a pinion snubber. It's trying to rotate up and down. And if, oh, watch your head. If we don't get it mounted solid like it is back here, it's going to cause issues. So I'll go ahead and change that. You can see it's been wallering around a little bit. So we'll get that fixed. I'll tag that too. Now, of course, I already flagged the exhaust, but you can see here where he had a plan. It was tacked in place. Just a couple spots just to hold the pipes so he could figure out where he was going with it. And if you're looking forward, you can see they're a little out of whack. They're hung a little bit different. Simple stuff. We can make all that happen. So there you have it. That kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. Once again, this is only the preliminary. As I go through and I remove these tapes, you will be watching, I hope. And I'll be adding more. We'll start doing the harness. I'll show you some tricks on how to dress the harnesses up, make them disappear. And we'll just start spiffing up the underneath of it. This is going to be a pretty quick one. This time of year in Tennessee, things start to get pretty cold. So we aren't in a real rush for this one. The orange 1930 Tudor will be coming back in I have the control arm bushings coming, which I don't know if I told you about that whole debacle. If I did, I'm going to repeat myself. But this control arm is off the bottom of the 1930 orange Tudor that we're working on. And the bushings for the control arms were shot. Just shot. So I got the old one out. Trying to find them was virtually impossible. We ordered them for Mustangs. We've had problems with getting the right springs. Well, here's what you find out as you dig down the rabbit hole. And if somebody can prove me wrong, go ahead. But that suspension is from a 1965 to a 1969 Corvair. That's right, a Chevrolet Corvair. So, here's where it gets interesting. The Corvair suspension unbolts almost the same as a Mustang II that was produced years later. The shocks on a Mustang II bolt identical space as the Corvair. They bolt with a sleeve, goes from there to there, through this nice big hole for the shock to fit. The Mustang II, if you compare the pocket where the spring sits, identical. Ball joints, almost the same. The big difference is, one, Mustang II, the control arm is flat, doesn't have a hook. And the Mustang II bushing for the control arm is 3 1/4 plus inches wide, and this one's a little over 2. So, my belief, and I found a couple things on the internet, but you've got to search, is that Ford took the design of the Corvair, which of course was defunct. The whole car was proved to be dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And they copied the whole front suspension. The spring pocket depth is a little different, but if you check with U.S. patent law, God knows how many patents are on a Corvair front suspension, but you only have to change the initial design for a design patent about 10%. So by changing the spring pocket depth and putting a dog leg in the lower, straightening out the dog leg in the lower control arm, you can steal the whole design. It's happened over and over and over again. Look at tennis shoes. Sorry. Whatever you want to call them. And so many other things. So my belief is, and there's many people on the internet that believe it too, is that Ford took the design of the Corvair front suspension because it was light, it was very efficient, it was modern technology, and stole it from GM. So there you have my opinion. Prove me wrong. So, on that note, have a wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned a thing or two. Once again, get yourself some caution tape and a good pair of scissors. And hang a bunch of flags. It beats grease pencils, because if you put it there, until you take it off, it's there. If you inadvertently say, I'm almost done with this, I'll go ahead and scratch it off, the tape tells the tale. Have a great day, everybody. Be safe. Take care. Okay, now we're at the top. So just kind of doing a quickie. Obviously, we have some stuff that we need to address. These are the wires for the fan, which is not hooked up. It's not hooked up thermally at this point, so we'll deal with that. We have a battery switch here. This is actually for the fuel pump, and I think it's actually the ignition feed at this point, but I'm not sure. It works off of the battery switch here. The battery switch is okay. We need to move these cables. They cannot be that close to the header. We'll address that. We still have to hook up low pressure cutoff switch for the air conditioner. I'm not going to tag all of this because I'll be right here all at once. The choke is way too tight. The air cleaner is way too small. None of the gauges work yet. Just, bud connectors. Gotta go. I would rather use a Deutsch style connector, which is waterproof, and you can buy them reasonably inexpensive. And then there's this mess. me get my flashlight. I'll go around the other side. And you'll see just a couple things that when you're building a car that's this nice, and once again, nothing against the original builder. This is another one of those where a guy's dream fell apart because he passed away before he could finish it. So we're going to finish it. So obviously we have a bunch of wires here that need to be addressed. And all of this. So that all needs to be messed with. A lot of it is just I just need to drag it all back out, get it squared away and straightened up. The brake pedal needs adjusted. The gas pedal is way too close. It was mounted in the wrong place. It is a cable, so I can move that anywhere I want. This window is missing. It did not come with the car. The top rail has already been removed, which we have. So we can go ahead and get a piece of glass for that. And of course, interior. So it does have a windshield wiper motor in it. We have the top piece for the dash. We have a lot of the trim that goes in here as well. So, but just a bunch of little piddly stuff. Once again, that didn't ever get completed. I have to make the new floor for the front. Not a big deal there. It's plywood. It's a Model A. The doors actually fit better than on the orange car. It needs a roof. This is actually like underneath the seat. It has a piece of plastic sewn to the vinyl. And what you do is you roll it up, you get it underneath the lip, and then it pops in and it stretches and holds it tight. I need to figure out what the name of that molding is. But that molding goes all the way along the top, all the way around the side, all the way around the back, and then that holds the vinyl nice and tight. So we'll figure that out. But a lot of good to this car. Just more of the same. Got a lot of polishing to do. We'll figure all that out along the way. Bye for now.